Welcome to the Power Foods Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Christy Joe, mind and body strategist and fitness nutrition specialist. You're listening to episode number 236, Discipline Your Mindset with Frank Gigante. I'm passionate about helping you learn how to become a strategist of your own health and body using science-backed evidence, anecdotal principles proven effective in my coaching, and psychological awareness. Be sure to hit that subscribe button to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. Visit us on Instagram at Power Foods Lifestyle and learn more about my coaching services by sending a DM on Instagram. I'm so happy that Frank agreed to come on the podcast with me to discuss mindsets for this new year. Frank is, in my opinion, an everyday warrior. He has an incredible attitude that has served him well. He is a school teacher at Rochester City School. He is a world-class athlete competing in all natural professional bodybuilding competitions and has two beautiful daughters, all while he is a brand ambassador, magazine columnist, and hobby furniture maker and woodworker in his spare time. During this episode, you're going to hear us talk about his book, Everyday Warrior, and he really emulates the principles he teaches in his everyday life. Otherwise, I really don't think he'd be able to accomplish everything that he does. Whatever goal Frank sets, he has this voracious appetite to go out and accomplish it. It drives him every day to succeed. He's a master of his mind, a master of his body, and you are going to benefit from hearing him speak today. Now, during this episode, you're going to hear us talk about foods and the mindsets around choosing different types of foods. And I want you to remember here at the Power Foods Lifestyle that we work to stop assigning morals to foods. They're neither good nor bad. Instead, we think about what the composition is of the food, how it is going to either enable our body to be of greater health and have more energy and build towards a life that we want. I want you to challenge yourself extra hard on that narrative. And we all have one. We all have this internal dialogue about food that exists in our minds that came from different places. At every circumstance we found ourselves in, every person. These are the things that direct our programming and the way we think about food. So I work daily with my clients to help them find a more temperate, moderate place to view food from, rather than this extremist view of, oh, I have to be perfect or else I'm a failure. So getting rid of this extremism versus the opposite side of the coin, which is apathy. So as you listen to Frank talk, I ask for you to challenge your own perceptions of food and make a small goal about how you can improve. Now, of course, there are times that we do need to have a really disciplined mindset, and that's another part I want you to remember. But here at the Power Foods Lifestyle, that's where we attribute this to the tiers. Tier 3 is all about that push, 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 let's go. We cannot keep that going for much longer than 12 weeks. You need to know your seasons. Tier 2 has a much more flexible approach. And so I invite you to learn more about the tiers by going over to the YouTube channel and watching the videos there. It's important to know yourself along this journey of nutrition. There's no one-size-fits-all approach. We don't think the same. None of us are in the same circumstances. So it is your responsibility and opportunity to figure out the best strategy for yourself. All right, PFL champs. Now I'll let you listen to Frank.
I was trying to think about when we first became friends online. Do you remember?
Oh my gosh. It's probably 5 or 6 years, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Right. Yeah, back in the height of my own bodybuilding days, and I can't even remember how we became friends, but you've been such an inspiration to me, and watching you year after year continue working towards your own goals, having truly one of the world's best natural bodybuilding bodies and physiques. Like you just, I mean, that's a fact. So people were allowed to say that.
Thank you.
So I would love to know a little bit about your history. Just explain to our listeners kind of where you've come from and what your current goals with bodybuilding are, so we know who we're talking to.
All right. Well, let's start out. I've been at this for 30 years. I first picked up a weight when I was 14 or so. I was a gymnast in high school. I had played sports, soccer, baseball, and things when I was younger. I was getting into gymnastics. I was in, I believe it was 9th grade when I was about 14. My dad had bought me a weight set. And I'm sure as a 14-year-old kid, the idea of having big muscles and impressing the girls was probably some motivation for me. It wasn't, I don't know how conscious it was, or at least I don't remember it being that. It was something, my dad was like, the weight set came with a program or set of exercises, and he was like, oh, did you do your exercises today? And as a teenager, sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. Sometimes weeks would go by and I didn't. But slowly but surely, it somehow caught me, and the passion for it took off. That flame was ignited. So by the time I was probably 15, 16, I started reading magazines and trying to learn as much as I could. I had a gymnastics coach who encouraged us to use the weight room in the off season. So between him and my dad, they certainly instilled some of that discipline and consistency in me. And by the time I was 18, 19, I had started competing, and then I've been training ever since. I took a good 15 years off from competing at one point, but was in the weight room, consistently 3 days, 4 days a week, all those years. And then when I got back into competing, when I felt the time was right, I haven't looked back since. So it's definitely been a lifestyle, and it's something that I am passionate about, with helping others and just reading and keeping up and learning from a science perspective, all of the healthy and helpful components of it that I can share and I can use for myself as well.
Right. Now, tell us just a brief little synopsis of the competition you just barely did. That was a world competition. Is that right?
Yeah. This season, I this past few months from, say, beginning of September through November, I hit 5 competitions, which is the most I've done at one stretch of time. 3 of them were world-class competitions. I put myself up against what I would consider some of the best natural bodybuilders around. The final one that I did was the PNBA Natural Olympia, which as a young kid, the Mr. Olympia Contest is something, I had dreamed of. Clearly, I didn't go that route. So having an opportunity to be on what was a Natural Olympia with hundreds of other competitors, 20-plus countries there, a huge event, was definitely a highlight of the season, and an honor just to be on stage with some of these guys and compete and show off the work I had. I came in at my best, and so before I even stepped on stage, I had nothing to worry about or doubt. It was just go out, have fun, and show off the work that I did. I didn't place in the top 5 at all. I did, for the entire show, win an award of being most shredded.
That's awesome.
Which for me meant a lot, because I didn't place, which placing is out of my control on any contest. What the judges see and who's up, on either side of me is not within my control. But to be recognized amongst the hundreds of other people that were there as the one guy who stood out as being most conditioned meant a lot, because that speaks to the work that I did that I can control, and the work ethic and the consistency and the discipline and kind of the tenacity of what I do. So that was a huge honor this year.
Well, and that's what I find so interesting, is that in order to achieve your personal best, because like you said, there's a lot of things you can't control within competitions, and your personal goals, you can only control the work you put in, the way you eat, the way you train. And at the end of the day, bone structure, genetics, just proportions of natural limbs, like all of those things really do matter in the outcome. So that's incredible. So what I actually want to do today is to piggyback off this motivation, this drive that you carry with you on a day-to-day basis, not for necessarily contest prep, which for those of you listening to this who are interested in hearing that, Frank was actually on the podcast back in episode 80 talking about the natural contest prep journey. But today I want to focus more on just our general population and getting some mindsets from you that will help them as they're setting forth in their New Year's resolutions, and what we hope is an every month resolution, right? That we're constantly trying to do better. So I'm curious, what do you think the biggest mindsets that you have that have helped you achieve this success? And probably more importantly, how could we translate those mindsets into the general person who's just trying to lose a little bit of weight?
It's funny. I think there's several mindsets, but I also think a lot of what I do, like the competition side of me, I see it as a very separate component compared to the bodybuilding, healthy lifestyle, and my day-to-day mindset. Those things apply to everybody. And when I put the Everyday Warrior book together, that was the premise. It was, a lot of this came out of the fitness lifestyle, and it came from other people who were in the fitness bodybuilding world. But the whole purpose of the book was to reach and apply to anybody in any goal, whether it's, a fitness weight loss goal, whether it's getting a job, going back to school, even something as simple as, cleaning your house or cleaning out your garage, things like that. It takes some effort on a person's part, no matter what the goal is. You can't just kind of walk into it and be like, oh, I did it. You need some sort of plan and some sort of action. And a lot of times for even what seems to be the most mundane things, they can be overwhelming if you don't have that in place. So when I wrote the book and the mindset I have applies to everyday people. So given that, I would say the mindsets that develop from fitness and bodybuilding and in the gym that transfer to everyday life: discipline, consistency or resiliency, and I think kind of like a tenacity, like a no quit, no limit type of attitude.
So let me get this right. So basically, I want to put myself in the position that a lot of people experience. They set a goal. They're like, okay, I'm going to lose some weight. I got to eat, all the healthy foods, all the power foods. I've got to plan out my meals. I've got to meal prep. And let's put them at work one day. They've got their food prep. They are committed to their goal, but it's been a hard day. They didn't sleep well last night, and suddenly there's donuts in the office. A lot of people struggle with, something like this. So I want to know, what does Frank do in these situations? Give us the power of thinking and action that we need to have in those situations.
This happens to me a lot because people don't expect me to eat donuts or cake or snacks or anything outside of vegetables, chicken, and fish or something.
Right.
I don't know. So a lot of times when that situation arises, and we all get there, even with the best planning, especially if you didn't sleep well and you're tired, even if you don't feel tired, it plays with your mind, because all of a sudden now you start having these thoughts and you're just off track, which is normal.
Yep.
And a lot of people are fighting it and they're like, oh no, I'm going to eat my carrot sticks. I'm not going to go for the donut. And they spend like 45 minutes arguing with themselves over this. And I see it at work, but I see it at parties or family get-togethers where, oh no, I'm not going to have the cake. I'm just going to nibble on my lettuce over here. But they're so focused on the food that they forget, like, there's people in the room. You have a chance to connect with people, whether they're family, friends, coworkers, whatever. And that's a lot of wasted energy focused on a donut. So in a situation like that, especially, depending on how regimented or how disciplined you have your goals set up, one donut's not going to kill anybody for the most part. So it's, like if I'm at, when we have like work parties or whatever, if I see something, I'm like, I wasn't thinking about a donut, but that donut looks good. Depending on what else I have going on, I might just eat the donut. And then I don't have to waste time thinking about it like, oh, should I, shouldn't I? I'm just going to eat the donut. And I'm not going to feel bad about it. And while I'm eating the donut, I get to talk to coworkers and stuff rather than standing on the side of the room next to the donut going, do I eat it? Don't I eat it? And then you're like beating yourself up over, oh my God, what if I, it's too much. And I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves for that. Like it's an all or nothing type of thing. And it's just not. There's a lifestyle. Even like, when you were saying somebody sets up, I'm going to eat healthy and I'm going to do this. And if you want a slice of pizza, eat a slice of pizza. Does it fit the mindset of I have to eat healthy? Probably not from what we've learned or been told, but it doesn't make it unhealthy, and it doesn't mean that you just blew it because you had a slice of pizza.
Right.
It's food. There's carbs, there's proteins, there's fats in pizza. You may have some self-control and discipline and not eat, half the pizza or the whole pizza, but having a slice or two in the scheme of things, the larger scheme of what you've done that day, that week, it's okay. And I think the mindset of we have to allow ourselves to live and accept that because I ate a slice of pizza or a donut or 2 donuts, I didn't blow my fitness goals. I'm not, a horrible person. I don't have to feel guilty about it. We put a lot of limits on our thinking, and then we beat ourselves up a lot, which is almost self-defeating. So
right. So what would you say to the person who is like, okay, cool, I hear you, Frank, I get it, I'm going to do that, but maybe they have a tendency that their training is so, or not their training, but their habits are so dialed into the all or nothing that they're used to in the past, oh, if I ate something off that perfect plan, air quotes, then I've screwed up, I'm a failure, and now I'm going to go sabotage myself, and just the rest of the day is a total wash. So get it all in my body while I can, because tomorrow is a fresh start. Like, how do we start to bridge that mindset into what you're talking about, this wonderfully balanced mindset where the majority of your day is dialed in, it is planned, it is strategic, but you don't freak out and be belligerent with yourself that I cannot have that. Like, what's the best way to start enveloping that mindset that I can, but I'm not going to blow my whole day?
Right. Well, there's two sides to that. The one, which is a strategy I use often, is like if I know my daughters and I, we're going to go out for dinner later and we're going to eat pizza or whatever it may be, I will purposely plan and again, I take my nutrition maybe to a different level than other people, where I've got my meals planned out, or at least my macros planned out for the day, so I know pretty much where I need to be. So the first thing I would do, instead of thinking like, well, okay, I've planned my healthy meals, but then if I eat pizza, it's this outside force, it's extra, or it's a or it doesn't fit, I simply make it fit the numbers. I include it purposely, so it's no longer this forbidden food or this off-plan food. Oh, it's part of my day now. Now it's included. It changes my mindset drastically because it's just part of what I'm eating, the same as every other food I'm going to eat that day. So that's one. Definitely include it. Even if I'm going to have 5 Oreos tonight, look at the back of the Oreo package. It tells you what the nutrition is. Include them. Write them down. Make it accountable. Like, oh, okay, I had 5 Oreos. It was this many carbs, this much protein, that much fat. Oh, well, I know in my goals or weight loss goals or weight gain goals, whatever they may be, I have this much to play with. Okay. And then now it's not such a forbidden fruit type of thing, because now it's just one more thing I ate today and it fit. So, okay, now we move on. Right. And then the other thing is, for the days where, and, I'm sure you've had them and I know I've had them, where you suddenly have for me it would be like a chocolate binge. I can't stop eating whatever chocolate I can find, or my one daughter likes Nutella sandwiches. We have Nutella in the house sometimes, and I didn't even think I liked Nutella until I couldn't find real chocolate in the house. Now I'm like, Nutella's the best thing going. So those days, if I do, and I know, like, hey, it's more than I had planned for in the rest of my meals, and I'll try and, my first strategy would be like, all right, I've had 2 tablespoons of Nutella or whatever, or 4 Hershey Kisses, whatever it may be. All right, what does that equal nutrition-wise? Can I make it fit? But the days where we blow it, because there are days, whether it's, you're tired, you had a bad day, you just, you weren't prepared for the day, whatever happened, or you just felt like it. Sometimes if you just feel like it, you just have to indulge yourself and be like, why am I fighting this? Let's just eat the bowl of ice cream, enjoy it, and then we move on. So then after that, instead of beating yourself up and, I'm going to go to the gym at 5 a.m. and I'm going to run for 2 hours on the treadmill and all that, just get back on your plan. Know that, hey, all right, this day was definitely out of my norm or definitely over my limits of things, but it happened. The next day or the next meal, just kind of get back on track. If it happens earlier in the day, that you can kind of make some adjustments, not starve yourself, but make a few adjustments here or there, maybe less fats later in the day or some less carbs, and then just move on and get, the next day, start fresh and right back on track. And it balances out. It's not, even when everybody gets all worked up about, the Christmas holidays and, I'm going to gain 10 pounds and this and that. Realistically, we gain like maybe 2 or 3, and even that's temporary, So right. It's just part of that that consistency and that flow of, yeah, you're going to have high points and low points, but they're going to balance out if you just keep moving, keep moving forward and don't dwell on, that one day where you ate a box of Thin Mints or something.
Right. I can remember a few years back, when I would text you over something and I'd just be like, oh my gosh, like I can't remember the exact, but I can just recall being frustrated that I didn't stick to a plan or something happened, something unknown, and you just being so blunt, get back to plan. Just get back to plan. And here's the thing, like all of our friends listening to this, you can't step around that. It's either you do it and you get back on plan or you don't. Like there is no rationality into, like let me get 75% back to plan. No, it's either you're back on plan or you're not. And that's one of the biggest mindsets I learned from you, Frank, is like, don't sit there and think about all the different things. Like just do it. Stop talking, stop thinking, just go. And I've always appreciated that mindset I've picked up from you. Tell us about when you ever set like a new goal. Are you the type of person that like writes it down in a notebook and then you're writing down all the sub points to get there, or what process? And I know that, your book, Everyday Warrior, spells this out, but I'd love for you to kind of give us a preview of what that looks like, and maybe even in something that's not fitness and nutrition related.
Sure, I do. I'm a writer. I by nature I want to write everything down. I'm very visual, so I need to see it. So everything I do, I tend to write down, whether it's just a little mind map of things, of ideas, or like even I have a planner, that I use every day. So there'll be a written down schedule of what I need to do at certain times if I have meetings or appointments or whatever. And then I'll fill it in with activities my girls might have or what time I'm going to the gym. And so I very much need to see things. I'm very visual. So when I set goals, take like outside of bodybuilding, say something like I enjoy woodworking. I enjoy building furniture and just working, with my hands and working with wood and things like that. So you can buy plans for pretty much anything, or you can find them online. But a lot of times if I have something in my head that I want to create, whether it's a bookshelf or a cabinet or whatever, I start with a plan. I got to write it down, and that starts from the materials list of how much do I need to buy, and I actually draw out, like let's say I'm buying plywood and I know I need, so many pieces for shelves and I know the length and width of things. I'll map it out so that I know like how much plywood do I need and what pieces can I get out of each board and how much can I get out of a board. And then I will start to create, the blueprint for the piece that I'm making. But then I have to create a schedule for myself of, okay, on Wednesday I have 2 hours. Well, standing in the middle of my garage saying, woohoo, I have 2 hours, doesn't do anything for my project. I need to have a plan because there's a million things going on in my head, but I need to have a more concrete step-by-step of where do I start, what can I accomplish, what comes first, second, third. So I'll write it out. And then that will lead to what I'm going to build the next time I can get in the shop and, where I go from there. So I very much write things down and plan them out. Even another example, cleaning my garage. Over the garage, I have my woodworking tools out there, but the garage also fits the car, also fits, the girls' bikes and lawn equipment, lawn mower, shovels, rakes, and whatever else we just shove in there when we need to. So there was a point where I couldn't woodwork because I had so much stuff in there and it just wasn't organized or cleaned out well enough. So I needed to sit down and actually plan out how to get back to where I wanted it to be. And I didn't have the end, this is important too, I think. I didn't know how it was going to turn out. I knew my end goal was I want my woodworking shop back in order, realizing it doubles as the garage and everything else. So I said, okay, today I'm going to clean off this one small workbench. And that was it. And that was kind of the igniter or the impetus to get going and do more. Because to look at it, it was overwhelming. We just had stuff stocked up in there from the winter, and, you're not out there in the wintertime because it's cold here. My garage isn't heated. I don't really woodwork in the winter. But just clearing off one little 4-foot section of workbench, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, well, this fit back in its place here, and now I've got the room on the bench. Oh, and I know where that piece of equipment or bike or whatever is going to go. And then it just kind of got the ball rolling. And so little by little, I'd say, okay, I'm going to do another 4-foot section. I'm going to do the section in front of the workbench or whatever. And little by little, it got done. And then, boom, my garage was beautiful. And so sometimes it's not knowing exactly how you're going to get to the end goal, but it's just the starting that is most important.
Well, and the garage being a perfect metaphor for the nutrition fitness. Like you said, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming for people when they look at everything that needs to be done. And they're like, oh, I know I need to count my calories and my macros. I need to make my grocery list, and then I need to make my meal plan, and then I need a workout plan, let alone a gym membership. And all of a sudden, it's this huge thing. So what I'm hearing you say is start small and do the one thing that's right in front of you, that's obvious, that you know should be done. Don't try and do the whole thing, but get that little bit going, get the momentum, and then let's add on the next. And I love that you said you don't need to know how you will get to the end. You just need to keep going. You just need to keep adding on those little tasks. And that's reality. That's the reality of accomplishing any goal, right?
Yes, it is. It is. I mean, start with what you have and what you can do, and then decide what comes next. Sometimes the next step isn't clear, but taking one step eliminates the unknown. I've given the example of if I wanted to run a marathon, which you and I both know, I'm not a runner. My first goal might be just to get a pair of decent running shoes because, thinking, oh, these shoes aren't that great or they hurt my feet. That might be my biggest obstacle, whether it's a mental obstacle or physically, I need better shoes. But it might just be going to the store and buying a pair of sneakers that I can run in. Then my next step might be, then my next step might be, how far can I run? I don't know. I don't run. So I might start, but instead of thinking like, oh, gosh, I want to do a marathon in May or a half marathon in May, having never run before, I don't know what that takes. And I don't know where I am to start. I can't be like, oh, I'm going to run out, go out and run 5 miles. And I don't know if I can run 5 houses, never mind 5 miles. But instead of sitting and thinking about it and kind of almost defeating yourself before you start, go out and run. Whether it's for 2 minutes or 20 minutes, figure out like, okay, my first day ever, I began with a 20-minute run or a 2-minute run or whatever it may be. But then instead of the unknown of stopping yourself because you don't know. And now the next step becomes clearer because now you have some evidence or some experience to say, well, I know I can run about 2 minutes without completely being out of breath and having to stop. Tomorrow I'm going to run another 2 minutes or maybe 2 minutes and 30 seconds, whatever it may be. And then slowly that becomes the unknown and the fear goes away because now you have the knowledge and the experience, and then you can better plan what that next step is, where before it was just this big, massive, overwhelming unknown. It was almost debilitating in a way. But now It's nice. Okay, now I know what I'm going to do next time. And then whatever that next action is leads you to better decisions about what comes after that. And then what comes after that. And eventually those small little steps lead to, wow, I'm running 2 miles. I'm running 5 miles, where when you started, you weren't thinking that.
So your book is called Everyday Warrior, The Action Guide for Ordinary People Who Desire Extraordinary Results. And it's on Amazon, I believe. Is there any other place is that the best place to buy it?
Yep, that's the best place to buy it. Or you can go to everydaywarriorbook.com. Perfect. It'll also take you to a Amazon link, and you can buy it there as well.
So for those of you listening to this who are resonating with this approach, with the way Frank outlines how to get going towards the goal, this may be a book you want to check out. I have used it myself and absolutely love the process. I'm also someone who has to see it in front of me. My rule for myself is always get it out of your head. If I'm ever expecting anything, whether it's a goal, an idea, a process, someone's birthday, I just never rely on my brain because I know that creates a very stressful environment. And so a book like Everyday Warrior is something that helps us get it out, but not just on a piece of paper that's like, oh, well, we're just going to throw that away. It doesn't provide a system. So that's what the book is really helpful for, is it provides that system so you can see how it all lays out, and you can follow from step A to all the way to step Z. So I would love for any of you Power Food Lifestyle listeners out there to go grab this if you feel like that will help you. Frank, just to kind of sum up and end our time together, which I've really enjoyed, and I'm feeling reignited with my own goals every time I talk to you. I come away with like a fist pump, like, hey, I got this. I can do it. Like, stop being a little sissy. Stop making excuses. Let's just do it. Give us just like a main takeaway. What is it that you would love to see each of us aspire to do with our lives this year and our goals with our health?
I would love to see each of us set goals that are outside of our grasp right now at this moment, and then work to make them completely attainable, whatever that may mean for each person, because for everybody it's different. The idea behind Everyday Warrior is exactly that. Every day you are working towards whatever your own goal is. They don't have to be understood by anybody else. They don't have to be approved by anybody else. But if it is something in your head that you want to accomplish, a passion, a goal, something you've thought about for years, there's a way to get there. And it takes daily effort and, conscious thoughts and decisions each day. But it's that everyday small actions that lead to the extraordinary results that we all look for. That's my hope and goal for anybody listening is, set your goals high and then work backwards on where do we start? What can I do? What is physically and mentally within my reach right now? And then take action and do it and let one action lead to the next.